Hey guys, the Dark Master here, back again for the second day in the Answers Marathon. Now, this series is kind of meant to be more experimental, but I am going back to the drawing, if only because a close friend of mine, Darren Kern, if you don't know who Darren Kern is, subscribe to him. He said that it'd probably be better because my mask kind of messes up my voice. So this time it's not the 27 questions black people have for white people. Rather, it's the 20 questions BuzzFeed didn't ask. Oh boy. Yes, these questions were so bad, so racist, that BuzzFeed didn't didn't ask. But so I'm here to answer it. And if you don't know another thing about this video, it got TJ called racist by the Utah Outcasts because, they're uptight social justice warriors. But so I think that's about enough feedback, about a minute, that's enough feedback. So let's get this started with 20 questions black people have for white people that BuzzFeed didn't ask by Your Black World. That's not going to be biased at all.
Be honest. You hate black people, don't you?
No, I do not hate black people. I don't hate any group of people. I look at people by individuals, the exact opposite of racists. Also, let's just say that I did hate black people. I don't, but let's just hypothetically say I did. Would you really want to know, or would you just browbeat me as a racist for wrongthink? But anyway, that's so stupid. It assumes all white people are inherently racist and against people of color. So so let's go on to the next question.
Do you know what gentrification is doing to black neighborhoods? Do you have any idea?
Yes, I am aware of what gentrification is doing to poor people. It's not a race thing. But here's the thing, right? Gentrification isn't the problem. It's poverty. Alright, that's the issue. Like, if you got rid of gentrification or poverty, you would be objectively worse if you chose to get rid of gentrification and not poverty. Because poverty causes gentrification. People like you are so obsessed in the small things that you don't care about what actually matters. It's like, ooh, someone said a slightly offensive word. Meanwhile, someone's generalizing all white people. Obviously, the other guy's racist. Not you. Because, racism isn't prejudice based on race, which actually is. No, racism is privilege plus power. Because apparently Obama didn't have any power. Whatever, this is silly. I don't like bringing up that kind of stuff, but it's just like, why?
Why is being a former drug dealer a bad thing, but being a former slave owner totally okay in white America?
No one in the U.S. is a former slave owner, okay? Slavery ended before your parents were even born. So why don't you actually pick up a history book and learn something? But to answer your question, I don't think being a drug dealer is necessarily bad. I mean, if you're like selling legal weed in California, that's not the same thing as selling crack. But to answer your question, people view it as bad because selling bad drugs to kids isn't acceptable. I don't care if that's part of your culture. I don't think you should be able to sell crack to underage children. Now, to legal adults that are 18 and above, who cares? It's your body. Inject whatever you want into it. But for kids, it's like, what? I mean, do you not care for your own children or what? Oh no, I forgot. I'm a former slave owner because I'm white. I'm a white guy. I'm racist because the Utah Outcasts say I'm racist.
Honestly, think the structure of America is not based on racism. Do you?
Oh, it's not based on racism. Okay, it's based on citizens and Declaration of Independence. That's what it was based off of. And let me tell you something, alright? Just because there were racists in the founding of this nation doesn't mean that the nation was founded solely on racism. Now, it's founded on ideals of justice and democracy. And I know you're going to say, oh, well, the founders owned slaves. Yeah, almost like that's back in the 1700s. It's like you're judging people back then on the standards of today. Back then, they were like extremely progressive. Like if you take them to like the average Joe, they were extremely progressive. They thought people should have, government was created for the people and not to rule over the people. And so, was slavery bad? Was it a part of the country? Yes, it was. But slavery is also a part of every country. And by the way, the Romans had white slaves. So slavery is not inherently black. Also, about the whole racism thing, newsflash, we have freedom of speech, okay? But it's like, the founding principles of this nation were not racism. It's like nobody said, we find these truths to be self-evident. That, racism is good. No, it was that all men are created equal. That's the point. Now, you could argue whether they were successful in that, but that's not the point. This wasn't founded on racism. And so I love how you're only in this video because we give you, because of the hard work of people of all colors. And you're going to say you're, like, I'm privileged? You probably make more money than I do.
Do you really think you discovered America?
No, I did not discover America. I'll have you know, first of all, here's the thing. The first people were Native Americans, so yes, they technically discovered America. But they didn't call it America. They didn't have a name for America. And it wasn't Christopher Columbus who discovered it. Now, you're being so vague that it's stupid. If you mean by the first Europeans, no, it was Leif Erikson was the first person. If you mean the first people, it was the Native Americans. But if you're talking about the people who founded the United States of America, then yes, it was white people. Like they were all white. And besides, what does it matter? Like, why does it matter who really discovered America? I mean, aliens could have been here before the Native Americans even came. Like, they could have, been like, hey, this is a very interesting part of this planet. We'll never know that because we can't find any evidence for it. But, and besides, I mean, does it really matter at this point? Like, really? And, I know people would say it's whitewashing. Well, it's history is made of bias. You cannot get rid of a bias. That's inevitable. Now, were the cultures of Maya and Aztec amazing? And, they were. I don't think they should have been killed by the Spanish, but I can't change that. I can't go back in time and say to Cortez, hey, do not kill that man. Do not kill that empire. And besides, he wouldn't have listened to me because I'm not rich. But, so, stupid, dumb.
Do you really think it's yours?
Not mine, it's the U.S. government. And before anyone says, no, it's actually Native American, no. The Native Americans signed a treaty with the U.S. government. Now, you could say we abused that treaty, and we most certainly did. But, no one owns America, except maybe, as a collective, the government. But even then, they're having trouble. I mean, think of all the issues they had with, those terror, those militias in Oregon and stuff. So, no offense, but no one owns America. No one person owns America. Also, if it's not ours, it's certainly not yours, because there were people of whiteness that were here before black people. It's I'm trying to be as I don't like talking about color, but responding to these videos kind of makes you talk about that. So no, the order of ownership is Native Americans, then whites, then blacks and Hispanics. So no, it's maybe not ours in the sense that we didn't discover it, but it is ours now. I'm sorry if that offends you, but guess what? We've paid reparations to them. I think that kind of. No, I think that's kind of important or relevant at this point, but keep ignoring reality.
Well, I'm upset. I'm gonna black man.
Or black woman.
But when you're upset, you're just upset. Aren't you an angry white man?
You see that? He's being racist against white people. First of all, when I think of you as an angry person, I think you're just angry. Like, this is such a silly argument. It's like, angry black man. It's like I've never heard anyone say that. And like, I've been like across the U.S. I've been to like other places like Virginia, Pennsylvania, Alabama, Texas. I've been around very far. I've never what? Of course you're an angry black man. They're being descriptive of you. Like, is that an issue? Whatever. I've been called an angry white man, so your point's invalid.
Isn't racism illegal?
Because we have freedom of speech, and if racism was illegal, you would all be thrown in jail. Okay? Just for the record. And what they are doing is racist. Mr. X. If you don't know who I'm talking about, look up the Utah Outcasts. The Utah Outcasts basically, made fun of TJ for daring to criticize this video.
Is gaining the black vote so important, but mass incarceration against black people isn't?
I view both things as very important. I believe that participating in democracy is important for all races. And I also think that mass incarceration is also an issue. I don't think half of the drugs should be illegal. I think if you want to inject yourself with meth, you have that right. But it's like, that's a false dichotomy if I've ever heard one. So let's go on to the next one.
I don't want your purse. I just want the same pay rate.
Well, I'm not more afraid of black people than any other group of people. I'm afraid of violent criminals. I don't see color. If you're a white guy wearing a robe sheet and trying to kill me, I'm just as afraid of you as if you're like a member of the Crisps. Like, I don't see color. Like, I don't see color. But apparently being colorblind is now a bad thing, according to some social justice warriors like yourself.
I don't want your purse. I just want the same pay rate.
What are you going to do about systematic racism?
Just two quick questions. You do get paid as much as other people, and by the way, this whole black people get paid less than white people, that's utter garbage. You need citations to say that. What am I going to do about systemic racism? Well, considering it doesn't exist, I do my best to speak out against racists like yourself. So just for the record, I do in fact talk about racism, though you might not consider yourself being racist.
Why must you own all the media outlets? I mean, could we at least have BET back?
BET, I've never watched that, so you can have it. Also, you don't own all media outlets. I'm sorry, we don't own all media outlets. And the Japanese own quite a few of those. And secondly, have you not heard of Kanye West? Have you not heard of, what was that other guy? I forgot. Anyway, so it's we don't own all the media outlets. That's fallacious. It's false. It's not true. Besides, just because a white guy owns Twitter doesn't mean black people can't partake in Twitter. What? Are you going crazy? I'm going crazy watching this video.
Why does every race qualify for reparations except black people?
They have a considerable number of people that have been directly affected by the government. The Jews, there are quite a number of Jews who lived through the Holocaust and who were affected by the Holocaust. And I would say the majority of Native Americans were also affected heavily by, the U.S. government. And I have no issue with them getting reparation. Here's the thing. Slavery and Jim Crow ended quite a while ago. I don't think that this generation right now really qualifies for reparations. Just because you're not willing to go the extra mile and actually get a job doesn't mean you're worth reparations. I'm sorry. And by the way, you're not the only group that doesn't get reparations. If you don't know, the Ottoman Empire slaughtered a vast number of white people, the Armenian genocide. I know that probably makes me a neo-Nazi for bringing it up, but it did in fact happen. Guess what? To my knowledge, they didn't get any reparations. And unlike you, they actually deserve reparations. But whatever. And they say, that's another thing. They say people of color don't have power. I'm sure the sultans of Turkey would disagree with you.
Really not that long ago, you guys prevented black people from learning how to read and write. But why did you let them keep the Bible?
It was a long time ago, let's get that right, because we both you and me never lived to see that. Secondly, the reason why we let them keep the Bible is because we were a Christian nation. I'm a Christian. But whatever, it's like I don't know, I think we were kind of dumb. Slave owners are not the smartest people. They think that they can own other people, and also they were extremely religious. They had the belief that if they, encourage, black people to be subservient, they would, and just I don't know, it's a complex issue with many facets, and I can't get into here. But let's just say, well, we were a Christian nation, and I'm a Christian. So it's like you would prefer not to read that book? That's kind of weird, but whatever.
Historically, you've never liked black people, but why have you always accepted black people's money?
Why? Because money's green. Business owners don't care what race you get as long as they get a profit. That's their main goal. Capitalism doesn't see color. So it's like, what? Okay. I mean, that's not an issue, but okay.
What does colonization mean to you?
It means the conquest of other areas of the world in the name of an empire. Now, does colonization still exist in the modern day? Not really. No. Not unless you count British. There's very few islands that the British still even own. So it's you could bring up Puerto Rico, but it's that's one exception in a pool of nationalism. So it's the British Empire is dead, most part anyway. The European Union has taken that place, but so it's colonization means nothing to me because it's a dying thing, I would argue. Now maybe colonization itself isn't dead because we're considering colonizing Mars and the moon, but since there's no one already living there as far as we know, I don't think colonization of extraterrestrial planets really is an issue, in my opinion.
You do know crack and cocaine are both drugs, right? Can you?
Yes, I do know that. And I would argue that the majority of white people also know that. Now granted, is there some hillbilly in the middle of nowhere who doesn't know the difference? Of course there is. But guess what? There are people who think that science and mathematics are inherently racist in a well-educated part of the world. So what?
Why Bill Clinton thinks one should carry a harsher sentence than the other?
Bill Clinton, I don't like that guy. And no offense, but is there a bias in the justice system? Of course there is. And I argue against that. I think all criminals should be treated equally. But you're not addressing that. You care more about the rare police shooting or the rare some white guy saying the N-word in the middle of Kentucky. You care more about that than actual racism.
As for Flint, when are you going to arrest Governor Snyder?
Honestly, I hope they do arrest that guy, but I don't know. I don't know when they are going to do that. They might not even do it at all. Not everyone who does a crime gets punished for it. I mean, whatever. It's there are black people who get away with murder. Look at that. If the glove did not fit, it must acquit.
So when we talk about slavery, why are you uncomfortable? It's part of American history.
Why do you?
I'm not uncomfortable talking about slavery unless you use try to imply that I'm a racist. Because no offense, but it's like, it's inaccurate. It's racist against white people to say that all white people are racist. That's the issue with it.
To adopt the fun part of black culture, but not the true lifestyle of black Americans.
The true lifestyle is pretty dangerous. I mean, you got shootouts like every week. Do you think anyone, like I don't think anyone wants to live in a place getting shot at for selling drugs.
I gotta know, why do you wear shorts in the wintertime?
Because I'm more used to the cold. Not that I regularly do that, but yeah, so that's basically it. So, final thoughts on this BuzzFeed wannabe. It's utterly insane. Half of the questions aren't even relevant to the modern day, such as whether it matters who discovered America or whether it matters was this country found in racism, both of which, well, by the way, it wasn't true. It wasn't found in racism. And then sponsored by a black business school, completely unbiased whatsoever. So, is this better or worse than the Australian one? Well, considering that this is a longer video and it has more objectable content, I would argue that this video is in fact worse than the Australian one. Because at least in the Australian one, there was at least one guy that was nice. Anyway, next time we will be addressing the actual questions that BuzzFeed did in fact ask. Hopefully they're better than these.